Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on paper 15, the 7 super universes. And tonight we're on section 6, and we're on paragraph 11. And it starts out with the dark islands of space, and that's on page 173.1 of the original books. And hi, Rodney. How you doing?
Hey guys, all right.
And that's where we're going to start. And we'll go from there. I want to point something out to y'all before we get too far gone and get started tonight. Let me go back up here to this other picture. And I wanted to show y'all something. This is the picture of the center of the galaxy, right? Basically the Milky Way system, right? And there's a couple places on this picture I want to point out to y'all, just because I was playing with it while I was waiting on Diane at the doctor or the hospital today. If you look at this, and I hope y'all can see this when I enlarge it. You see that area right there? Mm-hmm. Right in the center of the screen? You know, they talk about Urantia and all the thousands of millions of planets close to it. Wouldn't that be interesting if that was Urantia and that little shadow we see in the middle of that might be Urantia itself? See how big it is?
Sure looks like it's swirling around.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Now let me show you another place over here that is interesting on this picture. If we enlarge this, look at this one right here. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Look at all the massive amounts of light right in the center, and then all these huge, huge planets around it. Now, those could be architectural spheres.
They could be LED lights.
They could be LED lights. That's right. All right. And there's one more down here, or there's actually two more that I thought really interesting. This one right here is kind of interesting too. This one right here. This almost looks like a large sphere right in the middle of this one, doesn't it? If you look at it closely, you can almost see an outline here or something. And it could just be me, and it may not be. And look at the one above it. It looks like there's two of them right here, right? All right, let me show you one other thing before we get off this picture. I thought this one right here is really interesting. Look at this right here. You know, those could possibly be architectural spheres too, right? Makes you wonder if that's part of one of the major sectors, right? I wanted to point that out before, you know, and if you enlarge all these things, they become really interesting in some things. Okay, so let's get started on the dark island space. We're getting started a little bit thing. I just wanted to show that to y'all while I could, kind of enlarge it for y'all.
Thank you.
Diane, would you like to take the first one, the dark islands of space?
Yes. The dark islands of space. These are the dead suns and other large aggregations of matter devoid of light and heat. The dark islands are sometimes enormous in mass and exert a powerful influence in universe equilibrium and energy manipulation. The density of some of these large masses is well nigh unbelievable. And this great concentration of mass enables these dark islands to function as powerful balance wheels, holding large neighboring systems in effective leash. They hold the gravity balance of power in many constellations, many physical systems which would otherwise speedily dive to destruction in nearby suns are held securely in the gravity grasp of these guardian dark islands. It is because of this function that we can locate them accurately. We have measured the gravity pull of the luminous bodies, and we can therefore calculate the exact size and location of the dark islands of space, which so effectively function to hold a given system steady in its course.
So this is one of the explanations they give us of many of the functions of these dark islands, or these black holes as we call them, right? Actually helping large suns, dead suns, and large suns, and other aggregations of matter to maintain its place in the cosmos, which is really interesting if you think about it. It's because of the gravity, the huge amounts of gravity in these things. They keep these planets from running into each other, knocking into each other, right? This is what one of the pictures I wanted to show you of this. Please see this one over here. It says black hole. You could call that a dark island in space, couldn't you? Now look at this. This is a galaxy center, which is this picture down here, right? A galaxy center. Look how close it is to this dark island. So this would be probably a perfect example how the gravity pull of this dark island or mass is helping hold this galaxy in place. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
All right, so let's go on down to the next one. Minor space bodies. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. The meteors and other small particles of matter circulating and evolving in space constitute an enormous aggregate of energy and material substance.
And I found this illustration. This is the illustration. It's not really a picture, but they're talking about, look at this universe, and it's holding in its grasp this large meteor. You see this? And this is part of the stuff they're talking about here, that these small particles of matter are circulating in space, stays in certain positions. Now, what's a good example of that? How about the rings of Jupiter? Wouldn't that be a perfect example of that? All right. All right. Let's keep going. Mike, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. The planets?
No, the mini comets are.
Okay.
Roger,
Yeah.
that was the rings of Saturn. not
Yeah. Is that
Jupiter.
what I say, Jupiter?
Yeah.
I meant Saturn. Yeah. Thanks, Rodney. Yeah. Gotta have you guys keep me straight on these things. All right.
Okay. Nice. Many comets are unestablished wild offspring of the solar mother wheels, which are being gradually brought under control of the central governing sun. Comets also have numerous other origins. A comet's tail points away from the attracting body or sun because of the electrical reaction of its highly expanded gases and because of the actual pressure of light and other energies emanating from the sun. This phenomenon constitutes one of the positive proofs of the reality of light and its associated energies. It demonstrates that light has weight. Light is a real substance, not simply waves of hypothetical ether.
That's an interesting statement, isn't it? And this is a couple examples of original and process from the Hubble Space Telescope. And you can see here the center of the comet on both of these. But what I wanted to show you that's interesting down here, you know, they said that the tail will go away from the sun that's holding it. You see that? So the tail of this one would be going up towards the top of the screen, right? And so that means that this comet would be heading what direction? Towards the sun this way, right? Which you'd think is just the opposite of what it would be, but it's not. All right. Let's see. Rodney, would you take the next one? The planets.
The planets. These are the larger aggregations of matter which follow an orbit around a sun or some other space body. They range in size from planetesimals to enormous gaseous, liquid, or solid spheres. The cold worlds, which have been built up by the assemblage of floating space material when they happen to be in proper relation to a nearby sun, are the more ideal planets to harbor intelligent inhabitants. The dead suns are not, as a rule, suited to life. They are usually too far away from a living, blazing sun. And further, they are altogether too massive. Gravity is tremendous at the surface.
So a burnout sun, its gravity would be so huge on the surface of it that it would crush living beings, right? They even talk about this, how the larger planets are not suited for life, many of them because of the enormous amounts of gravity, right? Because of the large, massive things. And that's why they say humanoids are short all the way down to about, I think the smallest one I read about was either 24 inches or about 3.5 feet. So that's a short being, you know, but that's because of the amount of gravity on those planets. Now, so they don't make good habitable planets for humans or any kind of material being. Okay, that's what they're pointing out. And what I put in here down here is an example. Look at all the different sizes of suns they have here in this picture. You can imagine some of them are small, some of them are large, and some of these may be actual planets and planetoids, right? Small planets. Some of them could be inhabitable and some of them not. All right. Let's go on. It talks more about what's inhabitable. Bill, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. In your super universe, not one cool planet in 40 is habitable by beings of your order. And of course, the superheated suns and the frigid outlying worlds are unfit to harbor higher life. In your solar system, only 3 planets are at present suited to harbor life. Urantia, in size, density, and location, is in many respects ideal for human habitation. I wonder what the other 2 are.
Yeah, I wonder too, Bill. Now, remember when I was talking about the larger planets because of gravity is not suitable for inhabiting life? Now, why is that not so on the architectural spheres? Think about this. Because the architectural spheres are what? They're huge. Many times they're 10 to 100 size, the size of Urantia, right? Why would they not crush their beings? Because those
Are they hollow?
Huh?
Are they hollow?
They're hollow. That's right, Rodney. They're manufactured spheres. That's why they call them architectural, right? They have an outside covering which is suitable for life. They're heated, cooled, lighted, everything from the outside or from inside out. But the inside are probably hollow. Yeah. So they wouldn't have that what? That massive magnetic pull that would be involved in the gravity. You see what I'm saying? So they are fine for for harboring life, not only humanoid type life, but also the life that would be helpers for beings that are on those planets, right? And these are physical beings, just like we are. Okay. Lesh, did I say that right this time?
That's right, yeah.
All right, would you take the next one?
Okay. The laws of physical energy behavior are basically universal, but local influences have much to do with the physical conditions which prevail on individual planets and in local systems. An almost endless variety of creature life and other living manifestations characterizes the countless worlds of space. There are, however, certain points of similarity in a group of worlds associated in a given system, while there also is a universe pattern of intelligent life. There are physical relationships among those planetary systems which belong to the same physical circuit and which closely follow each other in the endless swing around the circle of universes.
So there's a large variety of types of life or humanoids on each of these planets, right? But what interesting point is here, because many of the planets are created by the same creator suns and local universe mother spirits, they're similar in the pattern of intelligent life they have on. Okay. But remember too, on all these planets, not only the humanoid type planets, but the architectural spheres and all those too have countless numbers of other animal type creatures on them, just like humans. So as we go through these planets, even the architectural spheres, they will be animals that we will recognize, many like the ones we have on this planet, and others which are totally different than the ones we have on this planet, right? So we'll have animal life on all of these worlds. All right, on to the architectural spheres. Ed, how you doing tonight? Good, you're muted though.
Alive and kicking.
Good.
Boy, Ed.
Let's let you take 7
Mhm.
architectural spheres, the first
Certainly.
paragraph.
The architectural spheres. While each super universe government presides near the center of the evolutionary universes of its space segment, it occupies a world made to order and is peopled by accredited personalities. These headquartered worlds are architectural spheres, space bodies specifically constructed for their special purpose. While sharing the light of nearby suns, these spheres are independently lighted and heated. Each has a sun which gives forth light without heat, like the satellites of paradise, while each is supplied with heat by the circulation of certain energy circuits near the surface of the sphere. These headquarters worlds belong to one of the greater systems situated near the astronomical center of their respective super universes.
So we looked at a bunch of these possibilities tonight, didn't we, in that picture? You know, when we look at those aggregations of matter throughout the Milky Way, any one of those near the center could be a group of architectural spheres, right? Now, it's hard for us to imagine these nearby suns that have light without heat, isn't it? Because our sun puts out such an enormous amount of heat. But many of these suns near these spheres are put out a light without heat to help light the worlds that's close to it, right? But the ones that's not, they have light and heat from the architecture sphere itself, right?
Roger, it wouldn't be a spiritual light.
No, it wouldn't be a spiritual light.
Okay.
It's some sort of physical light. And that's part of what the mechanical physical controllers do, right? The different levels of the master physical controllers and the mechanical physical controllers. That's part of their job to regulate these circuits of magnetic fields, electricity, heat, light, things like that. They say in one part of the book, if I remember correctly, that most of the architectural spheres have an average temperature of about 73 or so. And then, so at night, they turn down the heat down to in the upper 50s to give it a feeling of night, right? So, and that when it turns down the heat that much, it creates what? Condensation. So that's part of the process of keeping all the animal life and the plant life on these architectural spheres moisturized with water so they grow, right? So it's a perfect system. It's hard for us to even imagine.
So Roger,
Yeah.
just curious, Urantia bodies have a nervous system?
Yeah, they would have a nervous system. You have just in the first Urantia bodies, right? We have what? We have 47, is it 47 senses? As opposed to 7 in this life, right? So apparently we are accustomed to light and we can feel heat and those sort of things on these planets also. So these are perfectly controlled temperature planets to make all the beings on the planet comfortable. Okay.
I don't think those planets personally, I don't think they have a need for water. Would be it being a different type. These are spirit, these are Morontia beings. There's not water.
No, it's not for us, Mike.
Water is needed. I don't
It's
think.
for,
It's
for the
not for us,
animals
it's for the animals.
and the
Mike.
plants.
Well,
the
the
plants.
animals are also of the same makeup as the Morontia beings are.
No, they're
material
physical.
animals and Morontia beings.
No, they're physical beings, Mike.
Physical beings. You'll have
They're
to show me that in the book.
Yeah,
Physical beings as we know physical beings.
as we know physical beings. Now they're gonna
Show me that.
they're gonna breathe, and they breathe a 3-mixture gas rather than a 2-mixture gas. Other than that, they breathe air just like we do. They breathe a 3-mixture gas.
You'll have to show me where that is in the book.
Yeah, I'll have to find that for you. And
Yeah,
yeah,
please do. I want to see that.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. But the animals will be just like animals on this planet, only they'll be made of a physical material that includes some sort of Morontia material also. Okay, so, but they would use water. That they even talk about how Urantia has lakes. Just like they do on this planet.
Well,
That are interconnected.
Morontia-based type lakes. They're not lakes as we know. They say lakes. They use that term because that's the only way they can describe that. On those worlds, it is lakes in that particular dimension. It's
but it would be
it's not lakes as we know lakes. That's the term they use.
It would still be water though. They talk about having rivers and lakes like they do on this planet.
Right.
Well, it would still be water.
You'll have to show me what it is. I know about the rivers and lakes. I'm fully aware of that, but I don't think it's the same as we recognize rivers and lakes.
It may not be. It may be some different than what we recognize. But the animals and the plants would still need air or the 3-mixture gas.
Now,
and they still need water to survive, right?
Here's something else to think about, Mike. The shrub of Urantia lives not only on Urantia, but it lived on Earth as well,
right?
In the soil.
That's right, and it needed water to survive also.
Yes.
Right. So, and that's an interesting point, Rodney, is the shrub of Urantia was brought here by transport, or some types of transport, because it was a physical thing, right?
Right.
It was a plant rather than an animal. So that physical plant had to be literally
brought here in a ship.
Brought here in a ship, or we know it probably was not a seraphic transport, because a seraphic transport has to what? That it has to dematerialize you to transport you, right? Even Adam and Eve had to be dematerialized to be transported to this planet. The same thing with what? The Caligasser 100. Each one of them had to be dematerialized, put in seraphic transport, and given new bodies when they got to this planet. Remember that from the story about the Caligasser 100?
Mm-hmm.
And the same way with Adam and Eve. The Adam and Eve's basic makeup was what? From the DNA of this planet. Okay, it wasn't from the original planet. When they got here, their personalities and their being, whoever they were instilled in these new bodies. Okay, and they talk about them getting used to their new bodies. Now, the reason
Avatar.
they had, like Avatar, the reason they had this glow was because why? They were encircuited, right? That's the additional part. They were encircuited in the local circuits of the system. So they had that glow up until when? They defaulted.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they defaulted, they lost that ability to glow because they would what? No longer be encircuited when they stepped out of the will of God. Make sense?
Weren't they, though, of the violet race?
They were.
Okay, and that was the upsteppers, finally, of the, they're supposed to be in the upstepping of the existing races on Urantia at that time.
That's right. And they still had that DNA of the violet race after they defaulted, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so they still, their children and their children's children and all these things kept upgrading the planet as they multiplied over years and years and years, even after they defaulted,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
because of their DNA was mixed with with them when they were inserted. Now, when they defaulted, they were no longer circuited, and they were no longer allowed access to what? The tree of life. Okay. Now, another interesting thing is this. Remember when Van and Amadon left the garden and they took the tree of life with them, with the guardian seraphim? They lived off of the leaves of the tree of life for what, 150,000 years until Adam and Eve got here. Remember that? So they were still what? They were still encirculated. That's why they could benefit from the tree of life. They did not default, right? Excuse me.
But the the original plan was for them to build up a stronger population number,
right?
Then get spread out into the populace.
That's right. Now that was the plan for the Calagasta 100 also, Bill. Remember? That was part of the Calagasta 100, but they did what? They rebelled. They started mixing before it was time to do so.
Right. That's the same thing what happened with Adam and Eve, though.
Same thing that happened with Adam and Eve, right? So really, if you think about it as a culture of the world, we were cheated out of some of the upstepping that would have happened if neither one of those groups had
That's
defaulted, right? But the things that came from that, still we had enough benefit mixed in with our blood that it helped us quite a bit. That's the whole point. Okay, now let's see who's next. I believe, Diane, did you just read the last one?
No.
Okay, would you read this one?
Time is standardized on the headquarters of the super universes. The standard day of the super universe of Arvanton is equal to almost 30 days of Urantia time, and the Arvanton year equals 100 standard days. This Uversa year is standard in the seventh super universe, and it's 22 minutes short of 3,000 days of Urantia time, about 8 1/5 of your years.
Okay, and I break down all these times on our website if you want to go into this deeper. And our web sign is on the left-hand side over here is something called time study. You see that? Okay, you can click on that and it'll take you to a document that it breaks down all these different times, every single one of them. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that too much. This is an interesting picture. This is the Hubble measuring a rotation of a large cloud. You can see the rotation they're talking about here, all the different rotations. And if we go down here and look at this a little closer up, you can see all these different rotations of things going around the standard cloud. Makes you wonder, is in the middle of this cloud, is there an architectural sphere or something? Something that is rotating around? Look at all the planets, though. Good Lord, it's hard to even imagine that many planets. It's a great picture. It's just a star cloud. All right. Let me take this back down a little bit further. There we go. All right. Jane, would you take the next one for us, please?
Okay. The headquarters worlds of the 7 super universes partake of the nature and grandeur of paradise, their central pattern of perfection. In reality, all headquarters worlds are paradisiacal. They are indeed heavenly abodes, and they increase in material size, Morantia beauty, and spirit glory from Jerusalem to the central isle. And all the satellites of these headquarter worlds are also architectural spheres.
So all the headquarters worlds are architectural spheres. None of them are regular planets. Okay. So, and that's why they say here that all the headquarters worlds are paradisiacal. In other words, they're just like paradise to us. Okay. So that's the sort of thing we have to look forward to. All right. Mike, would you take the next one, please?
The various headquarter worlds are provided with every phase of material and spiritual creation. All kinds of material, morontial, and spiritual beings are at home on these rendezvous worlds of the universe. As mortal creatures ascend the universe, passing from the material to the spiritual realms, they never lose their appreciation for and the enjoyment of their former levels of existence.
Okay, there you have it. All these worlds are material, morontial, and spiritual beings, all three, on all of them. Now,
I don't think they're material as we consider it material. That's just my point. And of course, I understand where you're coming from. You're the teacher.
Yeah.
My understanding, that material aspect is not as we know it like this.
Well, that's your right to believe that,
Yes,
Mike.
sir.
That's why we study together. So
That's
so
right.
we can
right.
get different opinions, you know. To me, the material means as close to us as we can get outside of but in a way, you're right, Mike, because it's probably a material that's far more perfected than we even conceive of, right?
So,
Yeah.
That's
So, but they have morontial beings, they have spiritual beings. So we'll always seem like we're home. And the material beings there, they're talking about, many of them are talking about animals, right? Not just humanoid type beings. And then we have all the support personnel that do all the work that keeps all these planets up and going and running right? All right, there's got to have support personnel. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Jerusalem, the headquarters of your local system of Satania, has its 7 worlds of transition culture, each of which is encircled by 7 satellites, among which are the 7 mansion worlds of Urantia detention, man's first post-mortal residence. As the term heaven has been used on Urantia, it has sometimes meant these 7 mansion worlds. The first mansion world being denominated the first heaven, and so on to the 7th.
Okay, so when they're talking about the 7 levels of heaven in the book of Revelation, this is what they're talking about, right? Is Jerusalem, the headquarters. All right. And what's interesting about this too is Jerusalem and the mansion worlds. Jerusalem is the headquarters, right? The other worlds that surround these are the satellites, the main satellites around Jerusalem. And let me bring this picture up a little bit larger. And you'll notice on this, on the very first world, the Finaliter world, is the first satellite of Jerusalem, is the 7 mansion worlds they're talking about. And it's interesting, they call these detention worlds. Did you catch that? Why would you think they'd call them detention worlds?
Because we're detained.
We're detained there. We're not ready to go on, are we? We got a lot of learning to do. They got a lot of work to do on us to get rid of all the barbarianism in us, all the animalistic tendencies, all the prejudices, all these things have to be trained out of us.
I mean, it's not a jail.
It's not a jail.
On Earth, a detention center is
no,
a
not
jail.
in the sense of a jail, but you're not allowed to leave that world until you're ready to leave the world.
See, that's what it is. A detention pond holds water to release it out slowly.
I'm in a meeting, I can't talk.
And so that's what they mean by detaining. You're not being held there forever and a day, you're just being detained until you meet certain conditions.
Yeah,
That's
the early
right.
church called that Purgatory.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's purgatory. That's right. I want to mention something here too. I believe it's in the Ascender's Handbook. It's talking about Jerusalem here. And on page, let me see if I can find it here. I was reading this today. I think y'all would enjoy it. On page 32 through 35, I believe it was, they have some very interesting comments and stuff about the super universe, the spheres, and all that sort of thing. And you can find that in the Ascender's Handbook by Hera Davis. And I love these pictures she has of the seven super universes in here. But I wanted to mention that again. You might want to look through this. This picture I have here, it is Jerusalem and its 56 satellites. This is the very first stop we make, right? And it has these worlds. This is in the Ascender's Handbook also, or she talks about these worlds. So you might want to take a look at that also. So let's move on to the next jump. For us would be Urantia, right? All right. And let's see, Rodney, did you just read or not?
Yes.
Okay, Bill, would you take the next one?
Okay. Urantia, the headquarters of your constellation of Norlatia, has its 70 satellites of socializing culture and training, on which ascenders sojourn upon the completion of the Jerusalem regime of personality mobilization, unification, and realization.
Okay, so this picture shows us jumping from the mansion worlds in Jerusalem over to Urantia, which is what? Our constellation headquarters, right? And we know there's 100 constellations in our local universe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
How do we know that? It's in that chart at the beginning of this paper, right? All right, so you can look back on that if you want to. And I want to read this. This is from page 493. These training schools of special skill and technical knowledge are not conducted exclusively for ascending mortals. Although Urantia students constitute by far the largest group of all those who attend these courses of training, when you are received on any one of these 70 major worlds of social culture, you will immediately given clearance for each of the surrounding satellites, the 10 surrounding satellites of each of these worlds, right? What are they talking about? Okay, if we go down here, you can see these satellites around these worlds. You see this? And this is Salvington. And it breaks it down into the 10 groups of worlds, all right? But I wanted to show you this. These are training worlds and they have satellites too, all right? And this is in the constellation of Norlatia, which there's 100 of these in the local universe of Nebadon, right? All right, now this is a picture of Salvington. Let's go to the next paragraph here. Lesh, would you take the next sentence there?
Okay. Salvington, the capital of Nebadon, your local universe, is surrounded by 10 university clusters of 49 spheres. Huron is man spiritualized, following his constellation socialization.
All right, so what we're looking at is the 490 spheres. Let me get off of that. There we go. What we're looking at is the 490 worlds of Salvington. All right. And it names all these groups of worlds and what they're about here. Okay. Now you have to keep in mind that these worlds around each one of them, all right, each one of these worlds has the satellites, the 10th group of worlds around each and every one of these. That's what this is about, right? All right, let's keep going. So there's a whole lot of worlds, 490 in Salvington. We need to get to go visit each and every one of them. All right. Ed, will you take the next one? You mine or the third?
Sure. U Minor the third, the headquarters of your minor sector, INSA, is surrounded by the 7 spheres of the higher physical studies of the antecedent life.
Ascendant life.
Ascendant life, excuse me.
And this is U Minor the third. This is our minor sector. And of course, there's 100 of these inside. Yeah, right. Breaks that down too. Okay. And this is the spheres that surround that. All right. And then we move on to, all right, then it talks about the 7 physical spheres of ascendant lives, the higher physical studies. And I want to mention here on U Minor the third, this is where we become first stage spirits. All right. We move to U Minor the third from where?
Salvington.
Salvington. When we leave Salvington and go to the U Minor sector, we become what? First stage spirits. And as first stage spirits, we get to meet the 3 recents of days. Okay. And of course, here it is, first stage spirits on U Minor the third. Okay. So that's our progression. All right. Then we moved to the major sector of Splandon. All right. Ed, would you take that one?
U Major the fifth, the headquarters of your major sector, Splanton, is surrounded by the 70 seers of the advancing intellectual training of the super universe.
Okay. Then we have the 70 spheres surrounding it. Okay. The 70 spheres of intellectual training. And on this world, this section, we get to meet the perfections of days on the major sector, right? Splendid. And there we become second stage spirits. And this is broken down in these books also. She goes into great detail about which stage you're in and that sort of thing in these books. And I recommend you read those too. All right. So when we get to U Major, the fifth, we become second order spirits or second stage spirits. All right. And that's our major sector of Splendid. All right. And here it says 3 perfections of days and persons administered to the group pledges to the ascending graduates. All right. And this breaks it down even more. All right. From there, we go from U Major, the fifth, right, to U Versa, and it's 490 study words, right? And from that, you go on to third stage spirits. All right. All right. Let's go on to the next paragraph. I think, yeah, Mike, did you have a question?
No, I was just,
Oh.
no, go ahead.
Okay. Diane, would you take the next one?
Okay. Uversa, the headquarters of Avanton, your super universe, is immediately surrounded by the 7 higher universities of advanced spiritual training for ascending will creatures. Each of these 7 clusters of wonder spheres consist of 70 specialized worlds containing thousands upon thousands of replete institutions and organizations devoted to universe training and spirit culture, wherein the pilgrims of time are re-educated and re-examined preparatory to their long flight to Ravona. The arriving pilgrims of time are always received on these associated worlds, but the departing graduates are always dispatched from Ravona, direct from the shores of Uversa.
Okay, so you will land on one of these specialized worlds when you leave U Major the fifth, right? But when you get ready to leave after visiting these worlds and learning on these 70 worlds, You will leave from Uversa to go to Havona. Okay? And that's the way it works. I want to read this. Each of the 7 clusters of wonder spheres consists of 70 specialized worlds containing thousands upon thousands of replete institutions and organizations devoted to the universe training and spirit culture, wherein the pilgrims of time are what? Re-educated and re-examined preparatory to their long flight to Havana. That's your preparation. The arriving pilgrims are always received on these associated worlds, but departing graduates are always dispatched for Havana, sorry y'all, directly from the shores of Uversa. And there's another picture of the 70 universities of Arvantan. All right. Leaving from the Uversa. And there's all of us. All right. Yeah, what else we have? While we're on Uversa, it says here, the ancients of days. We meet the 3 ancients of days, right? Take pleasure in assigning certain of the primary Sakonafim to assist the ascending creatures domiciled on the 490 study worlds surrounding Uversa, and also here do many of the secondary and tertiary orders serve as teachers. These Uversa satellites are the finishing schools of the universes of time, presenting the preparatory course for the 7 circuited University of Havana. All right, and there's the 490. And it says here, notice here, this little person has what? 3 dashes across her, doesn't she? That's because she's a 3rd stage spirit at this point. We know from the records that mortals or spirits of the 1st order during the sojourn on the minor sector, and that they advance to the 2nd order when translating to the major sectors, and to the 3rd when they go forward to the central training worlds of the super universe. So we'll be 3rd stage spirits, right? Remember when we get to become 4th stage spirits? It's on the Rings of Havana, right? All right. That's where we always end up. All right. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Jane, would you take the next one?
Okay. Uversa is the spiritual and administrative headquarters of approximately 1 trillion inhabited or inhabitable worlds. The glory, grandeur, and perfection of Arvantan capital surpass any of the wonders of the time-space creations.
So this is the administrative headquarters for 1 trillion inhabited worlds. That's pretty impressive, right? And we've seen this picture before. This is us leaving Satania and how far it is to Jerusalem, and Uversa, okay? And also, we've seen this before too, and this is about how far they are in between, right? Okay. I want to read this paragraph from this bottom slide here before we quit for tonight too. We've got one more sentence after this. Your world, Urantia, is one of many similar inhabited planets which comprise the local universe of Nebadon. This universe, together with similar creations, makes up the super universe of Arvantan, from whose capital Uversa our commission hails. Arvantan is one of the 7 evolutionary universes of time and space, which circle the never-ending, never-beginning, never-ending creation of divine perfection, the central universe of Havana. And that's on page 1, paragraph 5 of the book. All right. If you want to know where that comes from. All right. Mike, would you
Sounds
take
like
the
the
last?
forward.
It is. It's the forward. It's from the forward.
This is the
Yeah. Mike, you want to take the last one for us there?
Yeah, I'll finish it up. If all the projected local universes and their component parts were established, there would be slightly less than 500 billion architectural worlds in these 7 super universes.
Think about that, y'all. 500 billion architectural worlds. Now we know there's 1 billion worlds in Havona, right? So that's 499 billion more than there are in Havona. So that's the worlds we get to go visit before we get to the billion worlds of Havona. Just thought I'd blow y'all's mind
No hurry.
for the last paragraph of the night. 500 billion architectural worlds. Some of them are still being made, y'all. They're not even finished. So that's where we are. And next time we'll go into energy control and regulation. All right. Let's say a little prayer and we will close for tonight. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for allowing us this wonderful opportunity to share with each other and learn about this wonderful revelation. We thank you for these people that want to learn this. We thank you for those that listen to us at home. We thank you for all those that benefit from us and will continue to benefit from us. And we feel blessed beyond imagination. We thank you and we give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you at home for
Amen.
coming to
Amen.
see us too. Let me stop.